What's up everyone? Alex Corey here with CultivatedChange.com. We're going to go over a powerful tool that I just found that has been existing but isn't as prominent and presented as forefrontly as it should be, in my opinion, for behavioral change and setting new habits. This is the equivalent of pre-wiring your brain, if you've heard of rewiring. This is implementation intentions in the context of goal planning. So I have a smorgasbord of different stimulants here, basically. So we got some chai tea, we have some dark roast yerba mate, have some decaf coffee beans. That's how desperate I was getting. We have some mud and some very dark 88% dark chocolate with some coconut milk. So implementation intentions are basically the equivalent of this lit up in my brain because I was a former computer science nerd and information technology is my background. Implementation intentions are the equivalent of a case statement in coding. That is, whenever you're coding and you run into a decision process, so upon action, someone clicks, whatever, it goes into a case statement. And within that case statement, there's a if this, then this, if this, then this, if else, then this. Just different options for you to hit. Implementation intentions are the exact same thing in your brain. So if you're setting a goal, my goal has been for this entire year, and I'm barely scraping it now, is to stop or reduce my caffeine content later on in the day. First cup of coffee in the morning goes well, really need that first cup. The second one is where I run into trouble. There's an old maxim that caffeine before noon is an elixir and after noon is poison. That's exactly how I work. If I have it later on in the day, all sorts of negative physiological changes. So I've been trying a whole bunch of different techniques to try to get rid of that second cup of coffee and just replace it with something similar. And I've done chai tea, I've done dark roast, done this is another chai concoction. What I found to work is decaf beans, and or I ended up inadvertently replicating Thomas DeLauer's, I think it was Choco Moo Moo is what he called it, which is basically just a chocolate coconut milk drink. If you can hear in the background, my dog is not too happy right now. She's whining. Sorry about that. But so when you're doing a habit change, you set up these, you pre-wire what you want to happen. So in this case, since I want to reduce my caffeine consumption later on in the day, it works better if you have a very specific goal. So that's even too broad. So if I wanted to reduce my caffeine consumption after noon each day to 30 milligrams or less of caffeine, what you do is, if I get you set up an if-then statement. If I get cravings for coffee or stimulant or caffeine and it's afternoon, I will then. And mine, you set up a bunch of different ones and you visualize yourself doing this. So I literally, when I was doing this, visualized myself coming down and making the drink. Your brain doesn't know the difference between you actually doing it and you thinking about it, which is why you can cause a panic attack in yourself just by thinking about things. Your brain makes things real very quickly. So those neural pathways start to form just by thinking about it. So intently visualize exactly what you will do whenever you get that trigger. So if I get that caffeine trigger, I go, if I have a caffeine trigger afternoon, I will come down and open a can of coconut milk, pour it in saucepan. I will pour a little water to dilute it. I will break off a piece of chocolate, turn on the stove, and have a Choco Cocoa Moo Moo. I actually have a cup that I didn't bring down, a Starbucks cup. And I found that it didn't really matter what was in the Starbucks cup, as long as it was in a paper cup and it had that same warm feeling, and it had that little mouth hole, as in, if I do this in a thermos, it doesn't work. I have to do it in a paper cup so my brain has all of those similar environmental stimulants as a coffee in the morning. So that's going. My other if then would be if I don't have chocolate or coconut milk and I can't do that, or it's earlier in the day, this works much later in the day, I have these pre-ground right here. So this is decaf, so it's 30 milligrams. And I know someone's going to say that's sacrilege, and I'm well aware. If I get cravings for caffeine or coffee and it's afternoon and I don't have coconut milk or chocolate, I will do a cold press of decaf coffee and put a little coconut milk or butter or some thickener in it to give it that dark, rich feeling and try to mimic a cup of coffee, a cup of dark roast. That has been working pretty well for me. So the studies around that have, I believe, Positive Psychology had a good article on this, and they did this with an exercise group. They split the group into 3, so there's a control group who didn't have a goal or implementation intention. They had one that did, or rather they had one that just had the goal, and then they had one with the intention. And the goal, the group that had the intention was double as likely to exercise as the other 2 groups. All of them did, and I think there was a 35% adherence rate, 38% adherence rate for the 2 groups that did not have the specific intention, and the group that did have the implementation intention was at like 96% adherence rate. It was more than double the other 2. So that's significant. There was also a large meta-analysis. I think it was 94 studies. It was in one of the journals of Elsevier, one of the journals of sociology. And they'd done a meta-analysis of 94 studies and found that with implementation intentions, it was a 65% increase in the mean group, which is huge. Meaning, when you make a goal, and you're making a SMART goal, meaning it has to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound, all of those things. When you're making a SMART goal, I want to stop drinking a second cup of coffee, or I want to reduce my caffeine intake afternoon each day to no more than 30 milligrams immediately, something like that. Even if it's that specific, you have to do specific visualizations and planning for what you will do when you encounter the situation. Meaning, do not leave any leeway in your brain, so when you have that trigger, it has a pathway to fire down. Give it multiple pathways. You will still have to make that conscious effort for a while because it is not solid. That pathway has not been run down. You have not greased the groove yet, as we say in our resistance training. There's no muscle memory. There's no brain memory yet. It is not used to firing down that pathway. So the nice thing is, when you hit that trigger, so when you have that craving, or whatever it is, resistance training, getting in the gym, when that happens, there will be a conscious pause because your brain now has a couple different pathways to take, and then you have to make that conscious decision to actually act on it. But it's much easier if you already have the exact mechanism and plan set up that you're going to do. It takes a lot of that conscious energy out of it. You don't have a ton of that conscious energy, willpower, if you will, in a day. There is no willpower for certain things. There is a pool of willpower. So if you use it up in one area, you don't have another separate pool for another area. So anything you can do to ingrain a behavior you want into a new section, anything you can do to turn that new behavior into an unconscious routine so that you can run on autopilot, the better. And implementation intention is one of the best tools I've come across, and it's actually helped me. Now, a lot of people are going to laugh at this because it's nothing major, but it's major if someone's having an issue with overdoing stimulants to the point where my nervous system would start kicking back and get all twitchy and things like that. It's completely context dependent, and a coach can help you figure out exactly what to do and where to place it. So that's it for this one. If you're interested in going or forming any new habits, my new habit free coaching session is always available below. Thanks, guys. Hey everyone, I have an offer for you. Do you have a healthy habit that you've been meaning to implement in your life, but you either haven't had the resources, you don't know where to start, don't have enough information, or you just haven't actually figured out where to implement it in your actual week? That's what I do. And as a gift for following me and a preparation for sitting for my board exams next year for the National Council on Health and Wellness Coaches, I need a ton of practice. So I'm extending a free 20 to 30 minute coaching session for any one of you. The link will be down below. I need a little context about what exact habit you'd like to implement. I'll have a link to my calendar right below that. Just submit that and I will reach out. This can be anything from nutrition, cutting the crap out of your diet, implementing or resuming a fitness routine, sleep and recovery, getting outside more, getting a little more movement in, building more social connection, anything that touches around the content that's been on my channel thus forth. And as a thank you, I will be having a substantial discount on any of the longer term health coaching programs I offer. See the link below.